Hey, there we are. We are live. Investing. You know, I can't do two things at once, so hang on one second. This is 271. Just getting this thing titled here. So on my notepad, so I know what we have in the log. Anyway, sorry. Okay. Enough of that. Hey, happy new update. July 11th, 2016. Welcome to the Wholesale Real Estate Investing Show number 271 by SAHA. This is one of our favorite days here because this is an opportunity to start a brand new session with a bright outlook for 5 days of awesome productivity, 6 days of awesome productivity, 7 days of awesome productivity if we can squeeze it in on Sunday. If you got nothing better to do. Why? Because we are entrepreneurs. We get out there and we do it, because if we don't do it, we don't get paid. That's what entrepreneurialism is about right there. It's about a mindset shift. If you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be a real estate investor, if you want to be a network marketer, whatever it is that you want to be, you got to remember one thing. You're no longer going to be paid for the time that you put in. Period. End of story. Yada, yada, yada. That's it. You're not being paid on the time that you put in. You're going to be paid on the production. You're going to be paid upon your results. You're going to get paid upon what you do. Okay? So the more you do, the more you're going to get paid. That's if you can do it. And so think about this. So the more you do, the more you're going to get paid. Doesn't it make sense that you could probably do more if you're doing it smarter? You're doing it, allowing some kind of a system, someone else to do it for you, maximizing your time. Yeah, that's all part of entrepreneurial thinking. So, actually, I don't know where I got into that, but anyway, this is New Update. What do we talk about on New Update? How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Why? Talking about why are we reading a book that was written back in the 1930s? Because this book is probably even more important today than it was back then. Because today, people are so scared and afraid of anybody. Nobody has any interaction with strangers. We've been told far too many years growing up, don't talk to strangers, right? Stuck in there. We can't talk to strangers. Well, guess what? Real estate equals relationships, okay? Relationships are formed, or relationships have to be formed if you want to have any success in the real estate investing side of things. Relationships have to be formed with strangers. Yeah, people you don't know. You're going to need to know. That's the thing right there. All right, especially in the wholesale real estate game, where you're meeting strangers every day. Every day, you're talking to somebody you've never met before, whether it's on the phone or it's in person or whatever the case might be. If you want to get a deal, a discount property, you got to be talking to somebody you've never met before. And you've got to be talking to them about selling them, or them selling you their house at a discount, right? Do you think if you knew how to win friends and influence people, there might be a little bit of help in your ability to actually talk to people in a way that you're going to be able to get them to feel like they can, know you and like you and trust you, so that you can win them over into your way of thinking, right? Because, I mean, your way of thinking ultimately needs to take place in this, because if your way of thinking about this transaction and about what you need to pay for this property in order for you to make a profit off of it, You know, you definitely have to be able to win them over into your way of thinking, or at least very close to your way of thinking, so you can still make something out of this deal, right? That's why we study this book. This book is powerful for your skills in dealing with people and negotiating with people, and how to, you know, get them, you know, walk out of that house with a contract and a discount purchase on a wholesale deal that you're going to be able to flip and make some money off of. So that's why we read this book every month, every new op day. Almost said that nasty word. So every new op day, we go through this. We are now on, we're in part 3, which is that part I just talked about, how to win people over to your way of thinking. Like I said, I think that might come in handy as a wholesale real estate investor who has to talk to strangers every day and try to convince them to sell them their house for a discount. Yeah, I think if you can win them over to your way of thinking, that's a big, big, big help. All right. So we're in chapter 10 chapters so far in this third segment. It goes on. I don't even know. Maybe this is, oh, there is a part 4. Okay, cool. And what do we got? We got 2 more, 10, 11, 12. Is there a 13? Nope, 12 principles. So we're getting close to finishing part 3 of this book. So here is an appeal that everybody likes. Now, of noblemen, Jesse James and Al Capone. Nobleman? Was Jesse James a nobleman? Was Al Capone a nobleman? We see how people think. We see how one thinks, right? Well, you know what? In the eyes of the public, Jesse James was a villain, a gangster, a thug. You know, Al Capone, same thing. You know, a gangster. You know, a very bad man, someone who. But if you were able to sit down with these 2 gentlemen, or possibly even the people who were closest to them, you might find that they themselves had a completely different idea about themselves. Yes, a nobleman in their own mind, a nobleman at heart. You know, maybe they thought, well, there's no maybe about it. They absolutely probably did think that they were doing something for the greater good, that the rest of society placed on the other side of the fence and said, no, that ain't for better people. That ain't for bettering people, guy. That's your mind is twisted. You're not thinking right. But in their head, yes. So I want to start out by reading how this starts off, where this little piece came from. Okay, it says, I was reared on the edge of the Jesse James country. Oh, okay. On the edge of the Jesse James country out in Missouri. And I visited the James farm in Kearney, Missouri, where the son of Jesse James was then living. So this guy obviously had the opportunity to actually sit down with Jesse James's son, who was living on the farm or where Jesse James was came from. His wife, so Jesse James's son, this is not the son, this is his son's wife. His wife told me stories of how Jesse robbed trains and held up banks and then gave money to the neighboring farmers to pay off their mortgages. Sounds a little like a Robin Hood, doesn't it? Jesse James probably regarded himself as an idealist at heart, just as Dutch Schultz, Two Gun Crowley, Al Capone, and many other organized crime godfathers did generations later. The fact is that all people you meet have a high regard for themselves and like to be fine and unselfish in their own estimation. So it doesn't matter how bad a person is, they like to be fine and unselfish in their own estimation, right? How do you feel about yourself? Are you the dirty low down that other people think you are, or are you something, you know, quite fine and unselfish? J. Pierpont Morgan, who I have no idea who he is, but I have to look that up one day, observed in one of his analytical interludes that a person usually has two reasons for doing a thing. One that sounds good and a real one, okay? So what was the real reason Dutch Schultz, Two Gun Crowley, Al Capone, and Jesse James were out there robbing people? Maybe it was fun, maybe it was exciting, maybe they just had a greed for money, whatever the case was. But what was the reason that sounded good? It sounded good that, you know, hey, we're just taking money from these, you know, nasty rich people over here, and we're helping out some of these poor people over here. The person himself will think of the real reason, okay? Don't have to worry about that. You don't need to emphasize that. But all of us, being idealists at heart, like to think of motives that sound good. So in order to change people, appeal to their nobler motives. Is that too idealistic to work in business? Let's see. Let's take a case of Hamilton J. Farrell of the Farrell Mitchell Company of Glenolden, Pennsylvania. Mr. Farrell had a disgruntled tenant who threatened to move. The tenant's lease still had 4 months to run. Nevertheless, he served notice that he was vacating immediately, regardless of the lease, right? So typically, Mr. Farrell, you know, would, well, first of all, you know, he says these people had lived in my house all winter, the most expensive part of the year, and I knew that it would be difficult to rent the apartment before fall. He says I could see all that rent income going over the hill, and believe me, I saw red, right? So this pissed him off is what he's trying to tell you. What are you talking about? You're breaking the lease right now, and I'm not going to be able to rent this apartment. I'm going to lose out on 4 months of rent. Are you kidding me? Right? So his first thought here was to fly off the handle. He says, ordinarily, I would have waded into that tenant and advised him to read his lease again. I would have pointed out that if he moved, the full balance of his rent would fall due at once, and that I could and would move to collect. However, instead of flying off the handle and making a scene, I decided to try another tactic. So I started like this. Hey, Mr. Doe, that'd be for John Doe. Hey, Mr. Doe, look, I've listened to your story, and I still don't believe you intend to move. Years in the renting business have taught me something about human nature, and I sized you up right in the very beginning, in the first place, as being a man of your word. In fact, I'm so sure of it that I'm willing to take this gamble. Now, here's my proposition. Lay your decision on the table for a few days and think it over. If you come back to me between now and the first of the month, when your rent is due, and tell me you still intend to move, I will give you my word I will accept your decision as final. I will privilege you to move and admit to myself I've been wrong in my judgment. But I still believe you are a man of your word and you will live up to your contract. For after all, we are either men or monkeys, and the choice usually lies with ourselves. So, end of the month rolls around, this guy comes back, says, here's my rent. Says, the wife and I talked it over, decided to stay. He had concluded that the only honorable thing to do was to live up to their lease. You know what I mean? Appealed to their nobler selves, right? Hey, you know, from the very beginning when I rented you this place, and I've been doing this for a long time. I read you as a person of your word, someone that could be counted on. And after all, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's the way it is. But take this few days here, think about this. I don't think that you really intend to move. I believe that you you're a man of your word. So I'm going to take a gamble here. If you come back after thinking about this at the end of the month and you still want to go, I'll let you go. No problem. Okay, no questions asked. But I believe you're a man of your word and you live up to your contract. For after all, we are either men or monkeys, and the choice usually lies with ourselves. All right, when the late Lord Lordcliffe found a newspaper using a picture of him that he didn't want published, he wrote the editor a letter. But did he say, please do not publish that picture of me, I don't like it? No. He appealed to the nobler motive. He appealed to the respect and love that all of us have for motherhood. He wrote, please do not publish that picture of me anymore. My mother doesn't like it, right? Oh, poor guy. His mom doesn't like this picture. Let's not publish that one anymore. Let's get a different picture of him. I mean, seriously, come on. But if he would have said, hey, please don't publish that anymore. I don't like it. Who cares what you like? This is the only picture we got. We're not going to take the time to go get no other pictures of you. This is the one we're using, right? We don't care about what you think. But a much nobler subject, motherhood. His mom doesn't like this picture. Let's use something else. John D. Rockefeller wished to stop newspaper photographers from snapping pictures of his children. He too appealed to nobler motives. He did not say, I don't want their pictures published. No, he appealed to the desire deep in all of us to refrain from harming children. He said, you know how it is, boys. You've gotten children yourselves, some of you, and you know it's not good for youngsters to get too much publicity. Bingo. Yeah, he's right. You should probably lay off taking pictures of them kids a little bit. Simple enough. But if he just said, hey, man, come on, guys. Quit taking pictures of the kids, would you? Whatever, dude. Yeah. We'll do that. No problem. Click, 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 click. Yeah, no, we're not going to take any more click, 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 click pictures of your click, 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 click kids. You know what I mean? It's like, who cares? But, the whole idea of, what is right, what is held as right by people. Cyrus H. Curtis, the poor boy from Maine, was starting on his meteoric career, which was destined to make him millions as a Saturday Evening Post and Ladies' Home Journal owner of these sort of things. Says he couldn't afford to pay contributors the prices that other magazines paid. He couldn't afford to hire first-class authors to write for money alone. So he appealed to their nobler motives. For example, he persuaded even Louisa May Alcott, the immortal writer of Little Women, to write for him when she was at the flooded tide of her fame. And he did it by offering to send a check for hundreds of dollars, not to her, but to her favorite charity, right? Hey, listen, if you would just write one article a month for me, send $100 to your favorite charity. Oh, ooh, I like my charity. You send me $100. I know that's money I don't have to come out of pocket with. You're going to send $100 in my name to be. Ooh, I like that. Look. Okay, so right here, the skeptic might say, that stuff's all right for Northcliffe and Rockefeller or a sentimental novelist, but I'd like to see you make that work with the tough babies I have to collect bills from, right? And he might be right. Nothing will work for everybody. Nothing's going to work in all cases, and nothing will work with all people. But if you're satisfied with the results that you're getting now, then you don't need to change. But if you're not satisfied, why not experiment? That's what he says here. Okay, so at any rate, I think you'll enjoy reading this true story told by James L. Thomas, a former student of mine. 6 customers of a certain automobile company refused to pay their bills for servicing. None of the customers protested the entire bill, but each claimed that some one charge was wrong. In each case, the customer had signed for the work done, so the company knew it was right and said so. That was the first mistake. Here are the steps the men in the credit department took to collect those overdue bills. Question is, do you suppose they were successful, right? So, like I said, the first thing here, check this out. In each case, the customer had signed for the work done, so the company knew it was right and said so. That was the first mistake, right? So here's how it went down, trying to collect from these 6 automobile customers who had service done to their vehicle, had a problem with the service after they signed for the bill and refused to pay. So the credit department called on each customer and told them bluntly that they had come to collect a bill that was long past due. They made it very plain that the company was absolutely and unconditionally right. Therefore, he, the customer, was absolutely and unconditionally wrong. They intimidated that they, the company, knew more about automobiles than they could ever hope to know. So what was the argument about? Result? They argued, right? Yeah, I mean, seriously, we've already talked about these things in the book, right? First of all, let's see here. Called on the customer and bluntly told him that they had come to collect a bill that was long past overdue. So basically they're telling him, you know, hey, you're in the wrong, right? And then here again, they reinforce that by saying that the company is absolutely and unconditionally in the right, meaning that, yeah, you're in the wrong. Pay your bill. Intimidating them with the fact that the company knows more about automobiles than they would ever hope to know of, thereby not showing them any concern whatsoever over their situation, over their thoughts, not making them feel important at all, making them feel pretty low down, you know, basically violating every principle that we have gone through in this book. I mean, seriously, I could go back to page 1, I could go back to chapter 1 here. Let's look at this. How many principles does this violate? Don't criticize, condemn, or complain, right? Okay, there you go. Criticizing and condemning right there. Criticizing that they know nothing and condemning, right? Chapter 1, violated. Chapter 2, give honest and sincere appreciation. They didn't appreciate anything from these guys, you know. We did the service, you pay the bill. Shut up and do it, right? There's no appreciation whatsoever for you bringing your car in for service. Okay, violation number 2. Violation number 3. Oops. Passed it up there. Come on. Ah, there we go. Number 3. Arouse in the other person an eager want. Is there any want aroused in here whatsoever, except for wanting to, you know, get in an argument and yell at the other person for being wrong and prove their point? That's the only want that they aroused. How about chapter 2, 6 ways to make people like you? Become genuinely interested in the other person. Did they show any interest at all here in these people? None. Did they smile? Didn't sound like it. Even if they were on the phone, didn't sound like a smile was coming through on the phone to me. Remember, principle 3, remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. I doubt very much they used anything more than Mr. So-and-so in there. Be a good listener encourage others to talk about themselves. Doesn't sound like they allowed these people to talk about themselves anything, express their own opinions whatsoever. Talk in terms of the other person's interests. I don't hear anything in this about what they were interested in why these bills were not going to be paid. Take the other person, make the other person feel important, and do it sincerely. As I just said, they did not do anything to make these folks feel important whatsoever. So now, here's the next thing. How to win people to your way of thinking, right? Okay, chapter 1, what did they violate here? The only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. Didn't they lead right into an argument? Wasn't that the result here? Led right into an argument. Chapter 2, show respect for the other person's opinions and never say you're wrong. Right there was, the customer was absolutely and unconditionally wrong. Violation number 2. Principle number 3. Oops, I skipped one there. Where are we at here? Principle number 3. Oh, come on. Here we go. If you're wrong, admit it quickly and empathetically. Well, just because those guys signed the service papers saying that the service was done correctly doesn't mean they did an inspection and looked things over until after they signed the stuff and got home. Nobody does that. You know, maybe you were in the wrong. Maybe you could have told them, oh my gosh, we were wrong. Okay? Begin in a friendly way. Told him bluntly that they had come to collect a bill that was long past overdue. Doesn't sound very friendly to me. Okay? Principle number 5. Get the other person saying yes, yes immediately. This guy's going, F you immediately. Chapter 6. Let the other person do a great deal of the talking. Sounds like these guys talked right at them. Did not let them get a word in edgewise. Pay your bill and shut up, right? Let the other person, principle 7, let the other person feel that the idea is his or hers. I don't even give these guys a chance to have an idea. Principle 8, try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. Obviously, that didn't happen. Number 9, be sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires. No sympathy whatsoever here. So, here's what happened. Did any of these methods reconcile the customer and settle the account? Obviously, you can answer that for yourself. No. At this stage of affairs, the credit manager was about to open fire with a battery of legal talent, when fortunately the matter came to the attention of the general manager. The manager investigated these defaulting clients and discovered that they all had the reputation of paying their bills promptly. Something was wrong here. Something was drastically wrong about the method of collection. So he called on James L. Thomas and told him to collect those uncollectible accounts. Here, in Mr. Thomas's words, are the steps he took. Okay. My visit to each customer was likewise to collect a bill long past overdue, a bill that we knew was absolutely right. But I didn't say a word about that. I explained that I had called to find out what it was the company had done or failed to do. First of all, making them feel important. Hey, what did we do? You know, we're admitting that maybe we did something wrong. You know, incorporating at least a couple of those principles, right? I made it clear that until I heard the company's story, I had no, the customer's story, I had no opinion to offer, right? Listen emphatically. I told him the company made no claims to being infallible, admitting that we were wrong, you know, listening, opening up to listen, making them feel important. I told him I was interested only in his car and that he knew more about his car than anyone else in the world, that he was the authority on the subject. Again, making them feel important, appealing to their nobler side. I let him talk. I listened to him with all the interest and sympathy that he wanted and had expected. That's the whole thing right there. Finally, when the customer was in a reasonable mood, I put the whole thing up to his sense of fair play. I appealed to the nobler motives. First, I said, I want you to know I also feel this matter has been badly mishandled. You've been inconvenienced and annoyed and irritated by one of our representatives. That should never have happened. I'm sorry, and as a representative of the company, I apologize. Right? Admitting that we were wrong at some point in time. I could not help being impressed by your fairness and patience. Giving them that, powerful support there. Now, because you are fair-minded and patient, I am going to ask you to do something for me. It's something that you can do better than anyone else, something you know more about than anyone else. Here is your bill. I know it is safe for me to ask you to adjust it. I know it is safe for me to ask you to adjust it, just as you would do if you were the president of my company. I'm going to leave it all up to you. Whatever you say goes. Did he adjust the bill? He certainly did, and got quite a kick out of it. The bills range from $150 to $400, but did the customer give himself the best of it? No. Well, yes, one of them did. One of them refused to pay a penny of the disputed charge. But the other 5 all agreed, the other 5 all gave the company the best of it. And here's the cream of the whole thing. Within the next 2 years, they delivered new cars to all 6 of these disgruntled. Experience has taught me, says Mr. Thomas, that when no information can be secured about the customer, the only sound basis on which to proceed is to assume that he or she is sincere, honest, truthful, and willing and anxious to pay the charges once convinced they are correct. To put it differently and perhaps more clearly, people are honest and want to discharge their obligations. The exceptions to that rule are comparatively few, and I am convinced the individuals who are inclined to chisel will in most cases react favorably if you make them feel that you consider them honest, upright, and fair. Principle number 10, appeal to the nobler motives. The nobler motive for people is that they are good people. Appeal to that, and they will react favorably. O universe, I ask not for more riches, but for more wisdom with which to make better use of the riches given to me at birth, consisting of the power to control and direct my own mind to whatever end I might desire. Everybody make it a great new op day. Just real quickly, we've had a few issues, some holiday traveling, things that came up that have prevented us from having some progress with these new op day presentations, these new op day shows. I think we're back on track here. We should be at least getting a few here in a row. So be with us for the next couple of weeks. We'll definitely have them going on new op days from here on out for the rest of this month. There's going to be some more traveling coming up in August, so potentially we could have some issues. Hopefully I'll be able to at least have some advanced warning on that so that you guys will know, hey, don't want to have you guys coming here and not, having a show to enjoy. So anyway, with that, have a great day and make it a great new op day. Make it a powerful session. We'll see you back here on Wisdom Wednesday with some more great